I'm Matt Dixon, and welcome to the Purple Patch Podcast. The mission of Purple Patch is to empower and educate every human being to reach their athletic potential. Through the lens of athletic potential, you reach your human potential. The purpose of this podcast is to help time-starved people everywhere integrate sport into life. And welcome to the Purple Patch Podcast. As ever, your host, Matt Dixon. And folks, by hook or crook, we are getting there. We are on now part 3, our final chapter of our series on setting up a great off-season, one for the athletes. And today, it is your turn. We've received a ton of positive feedback on the initial 2 episodes, in which we first framed the components of a proper off-season, and then in part 2, we peeled back the curtain a little bit on how we're approaching it at Purple Patch, some of the specifics around our strategies to try and help people be really successful and yield the benefits of off-season with rejuvenation, a lot of flexibility, but of course that important groundwork that we want to do to set up a great performance up level as we go into the next season. Now you get to ask your questions. And we've got some great ones today. In fact, we've got about 10 questions to get through, so I can't be too wordy. I'm going to be pretty quick fire as we go through this. These are all questions that we've received over the last 2 to 3 weeks around the subject of off-season. So I'm not straying out of boundary here. I'm going to keep it pretty focused on our subject of the day. And we're going to add context to your journey ahead through these questions. We've filtered through, we've got a lot of questions, but we've filtered through with the questions that we think are universally of interest and, of course, applicable. Now, I've organized these questions into little categories, and I'm going to try and answer as many as I can. I think I'm going to get through about 10 of them. It should be both fun, interesting, helpful, and, of course, empowering for you. Alrighty, so as we lock in and we get ready to go here, a reminder as usual, we're bringing this show to you today absolutely ad-free. And so if you would like to continue the discussion with us, if you want to set up a complimentary consultation, we are here for you. If you're interested in anything around Purple Patch, or if you have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. It's info@purplepatchfitness.com. Just let the team know that you're listening to the show and you'd like to have a follow-up discussion, then we'll be free to or happy to set up a follow-up call with you. And of course, if you want to look at any of our programs or offerings, they are all at our website, purplepatchfitness.com. But with that, Barry, the producer, it is now time. We are going to do your questions. It is the meat and potatoes. Alrighty, the meat and potatoes, and it is all your questions today. As mentioned, I'm going to focus this around off-season, so we got a few questions that went outside of the boundaries of that subject, and I'd love to be able to answer your questions. I will respond via email, but I can't obviously in this show because we want to do a Q&A around off-season. What I have done is categorized it into a few areas, and we're going to start with part 1 on big picture questions. We've got quite a few on some of the bigger concepts that we've gone through over the last couple of weeks. And we're going to start off this first question, and I've got the reading right in front of me, so I've got the opportunity to read here. And this is from Lynn in Missouri, and it's a good one for those that are chasing performance gains without necessarily being a triathlete. Now, remember, as I sort of started off about 3 weeks ago now and laid out this series, I said, I'm going to place my emphasis on triathletes because we work with a lot of triathletes, but a lot of the concepts apply to everyday folks, whether you're a runner, whether you're a cyclist, whether you're just a lifestyle athlete that's looking to improve their energy and health in life. And so Lynn is one of these, and she has asked this question. I've listened with interest over the last few shows despite not being a triathlete, and it seems like the same concept could be applied to someone who's just chasing improvements in health and energy. I'd love to get started. I'm a little more sedentary than I'd like to be, and I wonder whether this is the perfect time as you guys are going into off-season too. Well, it's a great question. In fact, Lynn, I just finished up with an executive team, and an executive team working with them in a workshop. And we probably had about 60% of people that were really struggling to get any traction on their own focus on personal well-being, which of course is a catalyst to better sustained performance in anything we care about, including in the business world. And one of the really empowering things for them was not to just commit on their own journey, but actually create a shared journey together where they could hold each other accountable and get a lot of support along the way. And so for you, not being a triathlete, it doesn't matter at all. In fact, it's a fantastic time to commit to yourself, but also lean into a community of a kind, whether it's with Purple Patch or someone else. I would say that you don't need to be an athlete to draw from the benefits of an athletic approach. And what I mean by that is once you get up to a little bit of a groundswell of daily movement, you can actually lean into some of the benefits of how we get to ultimately world-class athletic performance. And the key words beyond consistency is structured and progressive exercise. So what you're doing in one day links to the next day, links to the next day, links to the next week, and so on. And the fancy word for that in the athletic terms is often periodization. Many people don't actually really know what periodization means, but it's enough to just say structured and progressive. So really putting intention behind your exercise. And so if you do decide to start with ourselves or another group, off-season is a fantastic time because it tends to be a lower stress time, at least so far as training demands are necessarily the case, and you can really build up the focus from the ground up. The second thing is that for us, our off-season starts October the 1st, and that's a really nice runway into the holidays. It sounds counterintuitive. Many people start after the holidays, January, New Year, New You. But this is a really good time to get a little bit of control over your own personal well-being, your fitness, some of this associated habits that are going to help you bring better energy that you then bring into the holidays and stay consistent, not obsessive, so that when you're coming out of it, you're not digging out in January like many people are, a hole of desperation. So I think that's really important for you. The question here is, how do you get started? And the first word I would say is patience. You want to actually start with where you're at right now. Your start line is not where you want to be in 6 months' time, it's where you're at now. And build really, really simple mini victories. And so if that was someone that was completely sedentary, that just might be walking every night after dinner and making a really simple commitment, and don't overcomplicate it. And then gradually, as you're successful on that, introduce new things. So your focus can be really patient, and even where you're applying your focus can be progressive. It might start with just movement and maybe a little bit of strength. Then once you feel good, maybe we'll start to think about hydration. Maybe we'll introduce some intention behind your eating. But don't try and change everything at once. I think that's really, really important. Remember what I said? I love the runway into the holidays, a really good time. And so, yes, if you're looking for a little bit of inspiration, October the 1st, okay, that is the time to really rock and roll. So pretty much right around now, build it in. You got a few weeks to really get going. And then when you meet the holidays, you're already going to be showing up into that holiday time when there are more parties, etc., with a little bit of framework and structure. And then you'll go in and you won't need to say New Year, New You. You'll already be on your journey of transformation. It's a great question. Question number 2. This is one from Jack down in Florida. Good stuff. Jack is not a Purple Patch athlete, but he had a good question, a good big picture question again, which is he is a competing triathlete. And he said, this year I had a pretty light race season. I've really enjoyed my training, but unlike other years, I'm not feeling tired or burnt out whatsoever. And so with that in mind, can I just keep charging? Can I skip the postseason and keep going with my higher training load? I don't feel like I need a break. Well, you might not need a break. You might not need to have that complete mental clean out. But I would strongly urge you, Jack, not to maintain full-blooded training, particularly if you want to shine next year, which I'm making the bold assumption that you really do want to have a great year next year. Whenever you really start to continue on your training load and you just maintain hard training, the likelihood of you not being in 6 months' time having a little bit of corrosion of motivation, a little bit of fatigue accumulation, your chances of getting there without that is minimal. In fact, I've never seen it done. Whenever anyone has just gone full-blooded in the winter, something happens. It's just too long of a time for the body and the mind to absorb the training and keep it really effective. And so you don't have to have that 10 to 21 days off. But I would really lean into, remember what I talked about in the last couple of shows. The off season is the time where you are preparing the body to accept and optimize the hard training that's going to come in the months ahead. And off season is also the time that athletes globally have the capacity to focus on things that they simply can't when they're training really, really hard. And so if you just keep the right training hard now, you're going to under focus on the good stuff that's going to help you improve your skills, improve your technique, lay down some good habits. And you're not really preparing the body to train. You're just loading the body up. And so accumulation begins. And you've actually missed all the really good stuff that occurs. And almost for sure, burnout is going to be ahead. So I'll repeat it. I've never seen an athlete hammer autumn, hammer the fall, and shine in the spring and summer. And so instead, if you've got lots of mental energy right now, double down, become a master of your craft, really build up more of the habits. But getting to January like a bottle of champagne that's been shooken up, all right, just nice and shooken the shoulders, as I like to say. In other words, shake the shoulders. You've shaken up that champagne, it's ready to pop, but you're there physically and mentally. That's the best thing that you can do. You've always got room to grow. For triathletes, I've never had someone that says to me, I wish I had have gone out on the swim harder in a race. And I've also never had someone to say, I didn't have a bad season, but I wish I had trained much harder over the course of off season. A really patient approach with room to grow is a huge component. I hope that helps, Jack. Come and join us for a little bit of off season fun. You'll have room to grow and you'll have a great 2025 season. All right, question number 3 from Marisol. Marisol, she's in somewhere in, she said, Central America. So, well, should we make up a country in Central America? No, choose one. Central America. Marisol, fantastic. She said, I have made sacrifices during the race season and I have trained very, very hard. How do I get that mental break while also continuing to train in the off season? Well, the good news, if you really feel like Marisol, you feel like you've really invested over the course of the last sort of 9 months or so, and you've raced very, very hard, it's I think the best way, and first I would send you back to the last couple of episodes on this question. But the second thing is the good news about off season is it should feel very different. And what I mean by that is if you're doing it successfully, it shouldn't have the same mental toll or pressure as the rest of the season. And remember, one of the key concepts that I talked about is whatever your maximal capacity to train in your time-starved life is, in off-season, you don't want to train up to that limit. You want to give yourself more room to grow. And so it should really feel fresh. It should be different. And right at the peak of your hard training, hard racing, there is a juggling act that occurs for most athletes. It takes a lot of focus. I'll acknowledge that for a time-starved athlete that is trying to be competitive in sport, because you've got all of the non-negotiables of life and work, and you're trying to maximize your training load that you can get in while yielding positive adaptations and race readiness. So there is this tension, healthy natural tension, that forces effectiveness and prioritization and optimization and all of that. But it takes real intention. In off season, you should have a big breath. You should have more space. And so if you don't feel that relief, you need to peel it back even more. You need to give yourself more time. The second thing from what you're saying in that question is I would urge you to really have a mental clean out. So probably 2 weeks where you can exercise like a healthy human being, if you like, but I wouldn't do any structured exercise at all. I wouldn't have a heart rate strap. I wouldn't have a power meter or GPS monitor on. I would just exercise. And I would take your athletic hat off and I would just be a healthy human being. What do healthy human beings do? They move their body most days. They consume good quality nutrition as much as possible. Sometimes they have a little excess. Sometimes they go big party time. All of that stuff is good, but you don't become a sloth. You can keep moving, but you don't have any order or structure around it. You just flow and you go with the rhythm. You're not training. Then, when you get back on, you've got this big mental cleanse that's occurred, and you're probably desperate to have the framework and the structure back because suddenly people realize that that's really how they are actually operationally effective over the course of broader life. And you can start with a fresh lens and go from there. And so, yeah, athletes thrive in off season, but it shouldn't feel like a burden. And if it does, you need to peel it back, commit even less, not in terms of commitment of focus, but in terms of total training hours, and you'll be able to be really, really productive. Good stuff. Alrighty. So, question number 4, the last one in question number over the course of the big picture questions here. This is from Erica in New York. She said, "You have discussed a lot about lower stress and key specific structure. What are your thoughts on some of the newer AI driven training programs, as these seem to be the most specific and optimal methods to get customized off-season training and even beyond?" Whew, well, it's a big subject, and it's a great question. Thank you, Erica. I'll say this, and let me talk about AI first. And AI is a part of our lives, and I don't want to have the discussion here or point out opinions of the benefits and the positives and the potential negatives of AI. AI is with us. We utilize it at Purple Patch. Uh, you are smart if you integrate AI in some way into your life. All of us will be integrating AI into our life, etc. And so I am by no means anti-AI, if you want to have that as a blanket statement. It is a really useful tool that can help us become more efficient in multiple areas, and that's great. And as we look forward over the course of the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, AI will be an essential tool for coaches delivering programming to athletes as well as education. As we're here right now, there's a couple of things that we should think about with any AI program. The first, without being an AI expert per se, so I don't claim to be, but the first and important component is there are two key features of any AI program that's very, very important to make it really effective. The first is it needs a methodology to begin so that, like a climbing frame, it can actually create the decision-making trees that are occurring. So at the start of it, you need some form of methodology. So if you're going to utilize an AI program, you first want to understand who's governing or created, what's the methodology that it's built on. And quite often, a lot of these AI companies or organizations currently are like black holes. They'll talk a lot about the marketing speak, but they won't actually focus around what was the original methodology. The second thing that AI needs is a massive amount of data. And so that's one of the primary reasons that a lot of the young AI companies right now are spending so much money on marketing and, quote, giving away their AI platform because they're leveraging their actual client base to build their algorithms, etc. And over the course of time, those will get better. Where I stand right now with it, with the programs that are out there right now, there's a couple of limiters that I see with it. Firstly, it's just not quite there yet. There are some elements there, but it's nowhere near what the promise is around it. And in fact, if you look at the programs, the challenge of it is it extracts quite a lot of the joy because you get a lot of repeating workouts that are really simple in structure and a little bit boring, not very interesting. The second component that I have a challenge with is if it's so personalized, which is theoretically not such a bad thing, but it diffuses some of the components that you can gain from team and community and culture. Imagine going to a master swim workout and every single person doing a completely different session. And that sessions are all quite boring. That has a challenge for me where you're losing some of the camaraderie, the support, and the team component to it. So there's that side that's a little bit challenging as well. But the biggest area for me as a coach is that one of the things that you can't do, all that we're really managing with an AI-driven program right now is a training stimulus based on intensity, length of duration, number of intervals, so training load and intensity. But a big part of off-season is actually teaching and guiding, at least from a purple patch lens, teaching and guiding some of the technical elements and some of the terrain management elements. And we simply, if we were just spitting out AI programs based off of a theoretical platform of a methodology that no one's really allowed to know, we wouldn't be able to leverage one of what I think is the biggest catalyst for performance jumps that you can, really teaching people the art and the craft of riding. And so I think that the landscape of coaching is going to be very different over the next 5 years. Any successful coach will be integrating AI into it. I'm incredibly excited. The truth is, it's just not there right now, and it's going to be there. And there are elements we want to be open, and we're having a lot of discussions with a lot of the AI organizations. But I'm just not wholly sold right now with the solution as it is given right now. And that's why you have to look very, very carefully at the marketing and the promises and the claims that are being made. And so understand the methodology, what's it built on, realize that you are a part of any AI platform to build their algorithm. That's just a part of it. They are leveraging you. Nothing wrong with that, but just realize that's what's occurring. Be ready for some pretty stale and repetitive training programs, and also realize that you're missing a huge opportunity. If you can combine that opportunity with understanding the craft, and then go for it. But right now, it's just not quite there yet. And I guess I know I'm rambling on this one a little bit, but the best analogy I could give you is if I was to write a newsletter for Purple Patch, and I was just going to put it into ChatGTP and then say, boom, it's done its job. Copy and paste, send it out without ever actually reading it and saying, is that really what I want to say in the right tone, in the right message? Well, the machine told me it was perfect, so I'm just going to trust it. And you can see that when you see people's blogs or LinkedIn articles or newsletters or anything else, is they're throwing it into ChatGTP and they're just trusting it all up there. That's sort of the most simple metaphor I could give you with where really what it's. If you've been receiving this program, it must be great because they told me it's great. But that's just where we're at right now. So anyway, I hope that helps, Erica, and that's a great question. So Q&A session part 2. This is going to be more around off-season questions, and we're going to get a bit more specific around training. And the first question here is from John, and he is from Europe. He's from London, so good to have you, John. Actually, just outside of London, I see Bournemouth, which is down to the south there. Very similar to my town, John, Southend in Essex. So we're sort of like brothers in kind in a way. But you've got a question around balancing strength goals with endurance training. A nice meaty one to begin. John asks, I know I need to work on my strength training, but in order to prioritize something that I don't have unlimited time to train. Until now, I tended to do one strength work a week, but not consistently. And the thing that I've always balancing is I also want to work on my swim this off season, trying to swim 2 to 3 times a week. I'm figuring out how to make all of my training work so that I can also get strength training in a week. Should I do 2 workouts on the bike rather than 3? Should I shorten my run? Should I do any combination of strength, etc.? So this is a little bit of an optimization challenge, John, and it's really, really good. Let's help you first with your mindset. Alrighty, so you've got sort of 2 goals. You want to work on your swim and you want to work on your strength. So what I would first do, let's first prioritize strength because I think it's really important. So in the height of season, most triathletes understandably and appropriately see strength as a supplement. Because when you're training really, really hard for the rigors of an Olympic distance, a half Ironman or an Ironman, swim, bike, and run is your bullseye. Flip it upside down over the course of the next 3 to 4 months. Your bullseye is your strength training. So on the weeks that you can most, or on the days of any week that you can most likely bring your best, bring your strength training. Those are the 2 sessions. And I would focus on doing 2 workouts a week. Now, remember, you only need to do somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes for it to be really effective. So that's the first building block. The second thing that I would do is integrate when you can the other 2 to 3 swims, because that's your second priority. And then I would start getting bolt-ons. So what I mean by bolt-ons is after your strength and maybe after your swims, I would be seeking some run frequency. So I might do a 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30-minute run after your strength on both sides. So think about it like a brick. And that's really simple if you're doing it at a gym. You can go and just hop on the treadmill. It's really good. If you're doing it at home, you can just hop outside, or unless you've got a treadmill at home. So that's a nice way to do it. And then quite often, actually, it's really useful if you can swim and then do a really quick run. That's great. Another thing you might get to do is just a pre-dinner run. So you might swim in the morning, and maybe just before dinner, you get to go and do a 15-minute run. It can be soul filling. It doesn't need to be a big, rigorous training session, but sometimes that's a nice way to sneak things in where it energizes you, you feel better, you enjoy your dinner, you're more present for the family, etc. If you just go for that little shakeout sort of pre-energizer. It's nothing that's so demanding that it's going to disrupt your sleep, but it's helpful. So it's in that order that you've done it. And then, depending on your week, you can then get in 2 more bike workouts on the trainer. And if you're lucky, a third. So that's the nice way to think about it. And you want to get those in. Now, what I would suggest is you probably want to get in both of the bike workouts. So if that means on one week when it's busy, you need to skip a swim and only do 2 swims, do that. If you can get in 2 bike workouts and 3 swims, that's great. So I would globally underdo the single standalone run sessions. You might get 1 or 2 of those in a week. I would flex on number of swims and number of bikes, but really ensure that you do swims first, then bikes. But if you can't get in 2 bikes, you're going to lose a swim. And then the third bike is a luxury bike. It's great if you can do it. If not, don't worry, 2 sessions a week. So that's the way that you organize training. And there's no rigid rule around this, but a little bit of flex on there, it enables you to feel like it's not overwhelming. And then the one reminder that I would give you is that remember, we're not going to full capacity. So when I say, do you have time to add the third bike, or are you going to drop your third swim so that you can get 2 bikes in? I don't want you butting up against full capacity. So if it's a decision to be made, go less. If there's a decision to be made, go less. Very simple. Okay, hope that helps as a concept. Great question for you. This question's nameless. Don't have who gave us this one. It's coming in anonymously, but we'll go with it. Is it better to focus on improving just one discipline in off-season, or can I expect to make improvements across the board? So I think it's a great question. What I really like on this is that let's first remind ourselves what improvements we're looking to make. So we are not in off-season looking to drive central fitness gains. So improvements are not, I'm getting faster, I'm getting more powerful, I'm dropping my average pace, etc. I'm preparing instead my body to train. So the improvements that we can make are more technical in nature and then foundational, not building your base, but foundational from building muscle and tissue integrity. So under that banner, you can improve everything because we're not looking to drive central fitness gains. So that's number one. You can upskill across all elements because even if you're doing it once a week, if you're really focusing on it, you've got a little bit of skill acquisition. You might remind yourself to hold better posture on the bike. You might do some higher end stuff on the bike and and a little bit on the run. And so there's not this big performance in the classic performance lens shift of gains. You're not looking to say in off season, I'm looking to drive up my threshold or my FTP or my critical power or any of these other metrics that you can sometimes monitor as a barometer or bellwether of central fitness gains. That's not what we're looking to do. And so you can focus it on this second part of it, though, of this question is I do really like it when we define a purpose. So the last question we had, John from Bournemouth, we talked about really focusing and doubling down on strength and swimming. I really like that because running can become more supplemental. It can be really soul-filling. He can still emphasize and focus on riding terrain management when he's doing the bike workouts, but he's building his week around the strength and the swim. And so I do like that for athletes. And typically, I like athletes at this time to really think about where is my opportunity and where am I going to just shine the light. So if people, I'll give you an example here, if people are frequently injured in running, this is a great time to do the run project where you can actually go through and patiently build consistency so that you can improve tissue integrity, so that your body can be more robust and absorb training when it gets harder. And so there's building up your weaknesses or looking for opportunities for biggest gains. And so it's not all or nothing. It's not, I'm only going to train for running or I'm only going to work on my swimming. It's really, where am I shining the light, where I know I need to bring my best focus, intention, efforts, etc. But remember, we're not trying to get fitter in the classic sense. Driving power, bigger metrics. We're not even looking at that for the next many, many weeks. And that is soul-filling in itself. Fantastic. Final question here. Enrique, good question. Mexico City here. Rest days and off-season training. If the overall volume is lower during off-season, does that mean I can do something every day, or should I still be scheduling a full rest day periodically? Well, the good news here is there is no right answer to this, Enrique. And I have athletes that do something almost every single day, and that includes off-season. Now, I would say in off-season, the focus can be dialed down a notch. The obsession can certainly be dialed down. And quite often, life happens in off-season. It might be holiday party. It might be a school event. It might be Halloween, whatever it might be. And in those occasions, guilt-free, leverage it for a rest day. The second part of the answer is that if you feel like you benefit from one day off, that you just don't do anything because it's off season and it makes you feel better, then take a day off every single week. We can absolutely build programming where you have a rest day every single week and you get everything done. That's a nice way to do it. And a lot of athletes love that. But if you're someone that really enjoys doing something every day, it makes you more energetic. It's a part of your ritual. It helps you structure your overall day. There's nothing wrong on the counter side of doing something every day, realizing that a lot of it's pretty easy. We're not driving central fitness gains and we're not going up to our full capacity. So you have a lot of license and a lot of leeway. Generally, most people tend to do something every day with a guilt-free rest day that life just brings you. And when that happens, we don't even think about it. You just move on. That's a great one. And that does it for our questions. We're going to finish up part 3 with nutrition and body composition questions. Now, I am going to do an episode over the coming weeks with Scott Tyndall from Fuel In. We will go through some discussion around body composition and off-season and laying good habits. We did it last year. I want to have a refresher on that topic with him. I think it's a great resource for us. But I did have a lot of questions around this subject. And so I'm going to finish off today with some contextual stuff. We've got 3 questions here. The first one is from Nicola. And Nicola is from Missouri again. Two representatives from Missouri. Who would have thunk it? But here we go. Nicholas says, I'm worried about gaining weight in the off season as my volume of training goes down, but my appetite tends to stay the same. Do you have any recommendations? Well, I do. And I think sometimes the first thing I'll say is a lot of our eating tends to be somewhat habitual. But there's several answers to this without actually knowing you, Nicholas. So I don't have the full context here. But generally, if you or anyone listening happens to be an athlete, when they are training and racing, they get quite lean as they go into that. There's nothing wrong. And so I would say appropriate to add a few pounds of body weight over the course of the non-racing season. And actually, it tends to happen pretty organically, naturally, when the winter comes in. If you're going into the winter, people tend to carry a few more pounds than when they're spending more time outside, etc. But I think generally the off-season time is the time that you really want to double down and create habits of a platform of healthy eating. And so, in talking to Scott Tyndall from Fuel In, he said something last season, which I thought was really, really helpful, which is when you don't have as heavy training demands, and those training demands force an athlete to consume a whole bunch of calories and particularly layered on top of it a whole bunch of carbohydrate and even more protein. It becomes a battle to get enough calories in for really training athletes. When you remove those demands and training stress gets lighter, it opens up the opportunity to actually really double down on something that all of us should be doing all the time anyway, which is to create a platform of healthy eating. So if we're not training that much, quote, most of us are training pretty consistently anyway, but we're not training that much relative to hard training demands, we can build our daily eating around really high quality proteins, tons of fiber and great vegetables and fruits, and then have enough carbohydrates to support our daily living and the training that we do. And it is that foundation that we carry and build throughout the off season that then when training demands go up, we want to, and here's the key thing, maintain that platform of healthy eating. And all we're doing then is throttling up, for the most part, carbohydrate on top of it. So when we talk to Scott, we're going to dig into that a little bit, but that's a way to think about it. So build your meal plates over the course of the off season with protein, fibrous foods, so a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits, etc., and then layering on just a little bit less carbohydrate because your body isn't demanding that in training. And that's a really good way to go about it. I would also say that the off season is a really good time if you are someone that is looking to make body composition improvements. This is the time to really do it. This is the time that you could, under guidance and supervision, a lot of purple patch athletes use fueling. You can find out more about fueling at fueling.com/purplepatch. Sorry, that's very bad. At purplepatchfitness.com/fuelin, I should say. And a lot of athletes use their platform and their app and their support from their coaches and nutritionists to help them build really healthy habits and good quality eating. Really, really smart way to approach it. They're a great team, they're a great resource, and they will hold your hand through the whole journey. And I think that's a really good time to do it. The big mistake that I see is athletes try and shift body composition while training very, very hard. And not only are you managing a lot of stresses there, you also get into a little bit of trouble and sometimes a little bit of accumulation of fatigue or injury risk because they're under fueling relative to their needs. So don't worry about it. And secondly, finally, Nicola, you don't want to be managing your weight through training per se. So I would just encourage you to shift your mindset. Your body composition and weight management is around your eating habits and your stress management, and you're just fueling to support the demands of your training. And so there's a little shift to occur there with that. Don't think about burning more calories, because that's just going to lead you to doing more because you're worried about body composition. So let's build healthy habits first and then support the training with appropriate fueling. That's a way that you might want to think about it as you go ahead. Feel free to reach out to us, Nicola, or anyone that's got more questions on that, and we can help you privately. Just ping us at info@purplepatchfitness.com. We can give you some more information there and help you. So if anyone is interested finding out more on that, we'll try and give you some resources and some guidance, because I know that it's a pretty comprehensive subject. We can also introduce you to the folks at Fueling if you would like, and maybe get a consultation with them to help you set yourself up. 2 more questions to go, guys, and I'm pretty well at keeping it succinct here. This is another anonymous one. This is fueling and off-season training. How do I adapt my session fueling and daily nutrition habits? Well, we just talked a little bit about building the platform of healthy eating first. And I think it's really about, think about throttling on a motorcycle. How much are you really revving the engine? If your training demand is less, you don't need to think as much about fueling during the workouts. So if you're doing anything under 60 minutes, you really don't need to consume calories during a workout, in my opinion. You also don't need to overly worry about race fueling and hydration, because you shouldn't be doing any training that's trying to meet the demands of that. This is not the time of the year that you're doing race simulations, piling in 60, 80, 90, 100, 120 grams of carbohydrate per hour in most of your sessions. You can turn your back a lot on the gels and components like that. Very, very high intensity sessions, you might choose, and we only do 1 or 2 a week at most, you might choose to do a little bit of fueling in there. But for the most part, a lot of your off-season training can be sans or without caloric support, alrighty? Because we're not doing much long, extended duration stuff. Once you go beyond 90 minutes or so, you're probably leaning into some supplementary support. If you do get to go outside, and you do get to go and do some low-stress bike riding, for example, and you go and ride for 3-4 hours, nothing wrong with doing that occasionally, then you can eat some caloric support, but I would lean more into real food in the off season, and that's just a personal preference. The area that I do think is important to maintain is that habit of post-workout fueling. And so with any of the sessions that are 40, 50, 60 minutes and beyond, ensuring that you're replacing calories, protein and carbohydrate primarily after the workout, it's a really good habit. It gives you a sense of control. It's going to have a positive impact on your eating choices in the rest of the day. It's going to energize and help you perform in your other activities in life. So I like athletes always to maintain post-workout fueling. Alrighty, pretty simple stuff. And finally, the question, I think we're treading over trodden ground already here, but do you recommend reducing the amount? This is another anonymous one. Do you recommend reducing the amount of nutrition one consumes in off-season training since the workouts are not race-specific? Well, I'll repeat here just to finish. You don't need to consume like you're training for a race in session. We can remove all of that. The second component is your training demands are less. So your total caloric intake will be less. If you are trying to meet your training demands and your life demands, the demands are less, so you're going to consume less. So that's really important. But I'm going to double down here. And the reason I wanted to focus on this question, I'm going to double down and revisit what Scott said. This is a great time to build a platform of proper eating. So in other words, you are eating enough calories to support your daily demands with a ton of protein, a ton of vegetables, some good oils and fats, and enough carbohydrates, a really balanced eating program. And you go through and you build that as your bedrock. What you will have less of is the added supplemental, mostly carbohydrates that fuel the demands of your very heavy training. You're not going to have that right now. So that's where most of the caloric addition gets removed. And so when you've got that foundation, if you build that, when we go into, in the Northern Hemisphere, January, February, March, and training starts to go boom, 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 and ramps up, you're adding calories from some additional protein and mostly carbohydrates to fuel that training demand. But you've got this bedrock and foundation of really healthy eating habits. I will say globally around nutrition and body composition, this is the time. It's a wonderful time to build your very positive habits around daily hydration, proper foundational eating habits. Get those in order when training stress is low. And when people do that, much like general off-season training, it really sets the foundation to make things much more simple and much more effective when we dial up the noise a little bit and we start asking you to train very, very hard. And that's it. That culminates our episode. Folks, thank you so much for all of your questions, but have a great end of your season if you're still racing. If you're excited to lay the bedrock, whether you're a triathlete, a runner, a cyclist, or you're looking to perform in life, it's a great time. And as ever, if you have any reach out or if you want to continue the discussion, info@purplepatchfitness.com. We'll see you next week. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for joining and thank you for listening. I hope that you enjoyed the new format. You can never miss an episode by simply subscribing. Head to the Purple Patch channel of YouTube and you will find it there and you could subscribe. Of course, I'd like to ask you, if you will subscribe, also share it with your friends, and it's really helpful if you leave a nice positive review in the comments. Now, any questions that you have, let me know. Feel free to add a comment and I will try my best to respond and support you on your performance journey. And in fact, as we commence this video podcast experience, if you have any feedback at all, as mentioned earlier in the show, we would love your help in helping us to improve. Simply email us at info@purplepatchfitness.com or leave it in the comments of the show at the Purple Patch page, and we will get you dialed in. We'd love constructive feedback. We are in a growth mindset, as we like to call it. And so feel free to share with your friends. But as I said, let's build this together. Let's make it something special. It's really fun. We're really trying hard to make it a special experience, and we want to welcome you into the Purple Patch community. With that, I hope you have a great week. Stay healthy, have fun, keep smiling, doing whatever you do. Take care.